This is the What If Factory, presenting the definitive, catastrophic reality where every chord is a command and every lyric is a law. Forget selling records, she's selling reality. We are exploring the devastating, reality-bending scenario. What if Taylor Swift's songs were literal spells, and each album changed reality? The very first, terrifying consequence is the realization that Taylor Swift is the unwitting, uncontrollable architect of the global consensus reality. Her artistic evolution is not a personal journey, it is a compulsory, mass psychic shift. The spell is not confined to the album's release day, it persists throughout the entire album cycle, only to be violently overwritten by the next era. The shift begins with debut. 2006. The world operates under the spell of romantic simplicity and nostalgia. All complex, cynical financial and political systems become unstable because the prevailing emotional logic is driven by small-town sincerity and heartbroken longing. Global commerce struggles because the driving force is not profit, but the pervasive desire for a quiet, reliable life, a terrible force for a dynamic market. Fearless, 2008, casts the spell of inevitable destiny and grand narrative. Reality is infused with cinematic melodrama. Every event, from a traffic jam to a diplomatic meeting, is perceived as a critical step in a destined plot. This spell eliminates risk assessment and pragmatism. People cease to worry about consequences, believing their story arc will ensure a perfect ending, leading to reckless behavior and unchecked ambition in government and business. When Speak Now, 2010, arrives, the world is afflicted by the spell of unfiltered, unstoppable honesty. Inspired by the raw, deeply personal, and often confrontational lyrics, humanity loses the ability to deploy social filters or diplomatic subtlety. All secret negotiations, hidden agendas, and necessary white lies instantly evaporate. The United Nations becomes a platform for brutal, public call-outs and melodramatic confessions, paralyzing all forms of governance and corporate trust. Red, 2012, plunges existence into the spell of emotional extremism and chaos. The global emotional spectrum fractures, leading to collective, manic swings between euphoric highs and devastating lows within hours. This emotional volatility is a literal disaster for infrastructure. Transportation systems fail due to pilots experiencing sudden, profound melancholy, and the stock market becomes a joke, driven by instantaneous panic selling followed by irrational buying, mirroring the unstable energy of the album's core tracks. 1989, 2014, imposes the spell of hyper-aestheticized, curated public identity. Reality is instantly glossier, sharper, and more synthetic. The defining feature is paralyzing self-awareness. Everyone believes they are constantly being watched and judged. This spell suffocates genuine intimacy, as all interaction becomes a performance designed to shake it off. The greatest consequence is the collapse of scientific innovation requiring solitary, deep focus, as the collective need to be visible and aesthetically perfect trumps intellectual isolation. The chilling release of Reputation, 2017, casts the spell of aggressive paranoia and intense tribalism. Trust evaporates entirely, society splinters into armed, defensive camps of insiders and enemies. The environment is dominated by dark, armored aesthetics. This spell is the most dangerous for civilization, as the global default action is based on perceived slight and necessary, proportional vengeance, causing geopolitical tensions to flare into open, uncompromising conflict. Lover, 2019, reverses the paranoia with the spell of unconditional, polychromatic romanticism. The world is overwhelmed by pastel colors and saccharine sweetness. All legitimate threats and conflicts are instantly nullified, not by policy, but by collective, blinding affection. The destructive force here is the collapse of criticality. All safety protocols are ignored, financial prudence vanishes, and structural integrity is overlooked, driven by an unwavering, reckless belief that love will conquer all, even gravity. Folklore and Evermore, 2020, impose the spell of ethereal narrative and profound isolation. The world becomes damp, misty, and intensely introspective. The economic system, which relies on consumerism and interaction, grinds to a halt as people spontaneously retreat into quiet self-isolation, prioritizing complex, fictional internal narratives over real-world engagement. The terrifying unique consequence is the crisis of self-identity, where people sincerely begin to question if their own lives are authentic, believing they are characters in someone else's beautifully written, tragic song. The latest era, Midnight's, 2022, casts the spell of perpetual, anxious self-scrutiny and insomnia. The global energy is defined by restless, churning, 3 a.m. regret. Everyone is afflicted by a profound inability to find inner peace, trapped in a cycle of overthinking past mistakes and future fears. The technological world becomes a toxic feedback loop, used not for information, but for relentless scrolling and self-critique. The planet is too exhausted to innovate, too anxious to connect, and utterly paralyzed by the universal sound of their own anti-hero monologue. The world's only fleeting hope for future stability is entirely dependent on the unknown thematic choice for her next, inevitable, reality-shattering grimoire.